you may be left with a great sermon point, but you don't leave with the story. And that doesn't really help you it doesn't help you as much in life as you begin imagining the way that you are to live in this world. How much we orient ourselves in life through story, meaning the way we make sense of the world, our place in it. I think fundamentally it is through story. And Tara Isabella Burton talks to some degree about this in her book, and in the context of this search for meaning, looking for something big. And I don't know if she's a Christian. She kind of hints at coming to faith, but she does not explain it in the book. It's not written like she's a Christian, but um, one of the things she comments on is, how many people know the story of the book of Job versus the story of Harry Potter? And how many millions of people, if not more, like tens of millions of people, orient themselves in the world through the story of Harry Potter? And by that, I don't mean acting out as if they are wizards, but having a conception of reality and how you're to orient yourselves in the world in light of that. That's what I mean by that. That's what stories do. They capture your imagination. They allow you through a fictional story to imagine what the world is like and how it should be and what your place in it should be also. People probably could name the four houses of Hogwarts more than they could name the four gospels.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if part of that is, so if you look at the church, okay, how the church has maybe dropped the ball in some ways or just been unwise or overcorrected. You have some churches that have just given up any kind of serious teaching to begin with. And people have left those churches because there's not enough there, not enough substance. It's still just way too small. You have some other churches that are like, no, we're serious Bible preaching churches, but they've broken it down so much that people may be amazed at, wow, look at what we just learned from that one verse. But then they have no ability to back up and go, so what was Paul trying to do in this letter?
Mm.
What's the story? What is the story of Job? And how do I live that out? The story of Esther. You may be left with a great sermon point, but you don't leave with the story. And that doesn't really help you it doesn't help you as much in life as you begin imagining the way that you are to live in this world. So I think, and you tell me if you agree, and to make sure that we're also being clear on this, a lot of the scholarship and the academic rigor that has been reactionary, if you will, has resulted in a lot of good things that we should use and we should cherish. The trick is in applying it well.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're crafting a sermon series and doing your diligence to understand what was Paul's intent in the book of First Thessalonians, to do the work of a good scholar, to do the biblical theology, to understand the historical context, to make sure that you're understanding the literary context as well, and you have an understanding of the nuance maybe of a Greek verb or tense. If you can do all that, do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you put together your sermon series and you're preaching, what is it that you should highlight? Should you highlight that exegetical process or something else? And I want to be careful about offering a definitive answer here, because I think I don't know yet. I think I'm not quite sure yet what that looks like. And if I were still a pastor and if I were preaching every week, I'd be curious to see what this would result in my preaching habits. But I think in terms of, I think one thing that I'm sure of, at least as it comes to the preaching and the teaching practices of the church, and probably also in the home, we have to move more. We need to move back. What's the way to say it? Maybe it's not even move back. We need to add story. That's the simplest way to put this. We have to add story because it captures the imagination of people. And when I say capture imagination, of course, I'm talking about imagination. Not everything that is imagined is false and fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your imagination allows you to experience the wonder and the what ifs and the mystery and how am I a part of and what should I do? And if this happened, what would I do? It's a way to really begin living out a set of beliefs that's almost in a sense a priori to you living them out. And the imagination is something that has to be tapped into again, at least in Christian circles. So I don't know if maybe I got too long-winded there for you to even comment on it, but I don't know what you think about any of that.
No, I love it. And you covered a lot of ground. You didn't get long-winded, but you covered a lot of ground that's important for us And so I want to frame like for the pastor, because that's a particular role and job. And I think people are asking great questions and experiencing the friction point of people are not showing up to church. So there's a good question to ask there. So at the same time, they're becoming more religious, or more spiritual. They're becoming, distant from the church.